Okay? And then this is going back to what Josiah is doing. All right? The Topheth. This is another sacrifice of human sacrifice. That's why they call it Topheth. It's a synonym for hell, because that's where human sacrifice was done. Okay? It will also be famous for that in the millennium. Okay? See, Molech. This is where you did your human sacrifice. Specifically children. You were supposed to have sex while your kid was burning up and screaming. Alright? That's how cute the Canaanites were. Alright? When Israel was ordered to destroy all the Canaanites in the land when they came in through the Exodus, this is why. But they didn't do their job the way they were supposed to. So guess what? Kids were being burnt for Molech, and then you were supposed to have sex to their screams. Okay, well, King Josiah is doing away with all that now. And then he did away with the horses, which the kings had given. This isn't to the sun, this is to the sun god. Alright, so he hamstrings them, and he burns the chariots. In other words, I don't even want the plunder. Just get rid of them. Alright? Alright, and then this is all more detail about what he did, how he got rid of all the blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we're getting to our passage. Alright, this is still 621 BC. He breaks the pillars. See? Filled their places with human bones. Those are the human bones of the fake priests. Okay? Now we get to our passage. Remember, this is the fulfillment. If you look in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner of 1 Kings 13:2, this is the fulfillment of it in 621 BC. Right here. Alright? You can read it. I'm going to let you read it. First, it's 2 Kings 23:15 through 19. Alright? That's why it's benchmarked in Isaiah 53:3 at the end of the 33 years. This bought Israel another 35 years. That's why Isaiah is benchmarking it. And I didn't know in the video because I had miscounted the syllables when I did that video. I corrected it later and didn't remember I corrected it. So Isaiah 53:3 itself is 35 syllables. Isaiah 53:4 itself is 35 syllables. Together they are still 70, but they are also benchmarked within. Alright, so that's another pair that I didn't cover in the video, and I apologize for my oversight. But God's correcting it now. Alright, now, how did Josiah end? He ends by having the proper, real Passover. This is so sad, it makes you want to cry. Okay? It's still the 18th year. See, I promised that I was going to prove to you this was all in 1 year. Okay? This is how it ended. This is how his 18th year ended. He had the proper Passover. Okay? This hadn't been done for centuries. Okay? Look at this. Before him was no king like him. Before him. Okay, David was before Josiah. Alright? Of course, in David's day, there was no temple. Alright? They never celebrated the Passover. Okay? Now, I think, there's the parallel passage. Let me make sure of that. Yeah, here we go. The parallel passage is in Chronicles right here. Alright, this is the parallel about what happened to Josiah. Okay, look. This is more about how good he was. Alright, and here it is again about his 18th year. Alright. And this is the same story, but it's being told in more detail. That's why it's called Chronicles. It's the second telling of the same story with more details. That's the Jewish style of writing. Like, for example, Genesis 2 is an elaboration on Genesis 1. Alright, that's what the atheist always misses, and he thinks that God created everything backwards. Alright. Alright, so this is the story again being told. And This is, here's the decree again. This is 621 BC. Okay, so you can benchmark it. All right, and then we go back to, see, Josiah removed all the abominations. All right, now 2 Chronicles 35 is what I wanted to focus on. See, this guy is finally celebrating it right, and this goes into all the details about what they had to go through because they hadn't been celebrating it for centuries. All right, and it closes. I'm trying to remember where it is. There, look at this. Not even David. Not even David. See, 2 Chronicles 35:18. There had not been celebrated a Passover like it in Israel since the days of Samuel. Samuel was the guy who anointed David. So between Samuel, who obviously there was a Passover celebrated then, okay, until Josiah, they hadn't celebrated the Passover rightly. And I can't find anything more right now about what happened with David. But apparently, of course, in David's day, they didn't have the temple. But they didn't celebrate the Passover properly until Josiah. So no wonder God is benchmarking Isaiah 53:3 to the 18th year of Josiah when they celebrated it. Because the Lord is the Passover. You get that? The firstborn in Egypt are killed. That's because that depicts the firstborn to be killed for all of our sins. See, the firstborn in Egypt didn't die in vain. All right? So that's what Passover meant. And they didn't celebrate it. So God is benchmarking to it. All right? And then, just after that, Josiah dies. Well, not too long, but, he died in 609. This is how. Pharaoh Necho. And that leads you into Babylon. Because Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar defeats Pharaoh Necho at the Battle of Carchemish in 606 BC, and then he has to go home because his dad died. All right? Bible's date seems to be 607. So it's either late in 607 or very early in 606 when this happens. And late and early are on the Jewish calendar, not on ours. All right, so the Jewish calendar begins about March 20, 21 every year, the vernal equinox. Okay, so now we know that why God benchmarked Isaiah 53:3 to 35 years. To sum up, it's basically because Josiah turned to the Lord, and that bought Israel the remaining 35 years. And it's Josiah's sons and grandsons who will be sitting on the throne at the time that Nebuchadnezzar comes to deport. So Isaiah is giving you, this is what's so astonishing, Isaiah is giving you a line-by-line explanation of the cause for the temple's destruction. And he's also giving you a timeline to Messiah. And the beauty of that is, A, I know I parsed the syllables rightly in Isaiah 53. B, we know there are no syllables missing, so the Isaiah scroll, which seems to indicate words are missing, is wrong. There aren't any missing. And most importantly of all, we can see that, this is a rhetorical style in the Old Testament to benchmark by the 70s, by the 10-50-year period, each one of which has a 70, each one of which has a 50. So God knows how to tell time, and he's telling it through the meter, and he's benchmarking to dates you can check, so you can check your meter to see if you've parsed it rightly. Is there greater proof of God than this? In writing, objective, that you can test? If there's greater proof, tell me, because I can't find it.